What if what we call public opinion was just a manufactured narrative that makes it easier to convince people that if their views are different, then there's something wrong with that, or there's something wrong with them?
Spending is a tax. As soon as the government spends money, eventually it's a tax. Sometimes we put a direct tax on the people, sometimes we borrow the money, and sometimes we print the money.
Freedom and the dignity of the individual have been more available and assured here than in any other place on earth.
The Patrick Riggins Show. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Hey, it's Saturday, and you know what that means. Time for another hour of infallible logic and reason to take over the radio. We cast aside the emotional arguments being bandied about all week and get down to the work of fixing our country, of making America once again the beacon of freedom and liberty that it used to be. Much like the beacon that shines from the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network, of which we are the premier show, that being the Patrick Riggins Show, of course. We're heard all around the world through that little thing known as the internet, and we're also being broadcast locally through the ether from our home base in Knoxville, Tennessee on News Talk 98.7 WOKI. We started off with the Jimmy Buffett music because it's the first day of winter, which also means it's the shortest day of the year. So we're starting the long climb back towards more daylight and warmer weather. We just have the winter to slog through, then spring shows up and everything is right with the world. Thank you for tuning in again this week here on the Patrick Riggins Show, where Santa is not white. Hey, you know what? He's also not black. He's also not red, green, or purple. And do you know why? Because Santa doesn't exist. That's why. Actually, I guess government is Santa. Government gives away everything. Thinking about it, though, I guess government is more of a thief. Santa's elves make the toys and then he gives them away. The government doesn't do that. It doesn't make anything. It just takes from one person and gives it to another. You try that and it's called stealing. Government takes money from the people who earn it and give it to other people who don't. Doesn't sound like that's too ho fair to me. You really shouldn't be forced to pay the bills of someone else. Now, if you want to, that's fine. If you want to give money to private charities to help other people, fantastic. In fact, the money will be better managed than it would be in a government bureaucracy. But forcing you to give, which is what the government is doing by taking your money and giving it to another person in the form of charity, forcing you to do that is just plain wrong. Hey, speaking of Santa's race, did you see the story about the teacher in New Mexico that was put on administrative leave? What happened was the teacher said the students could dress up as holiday characters, and a black student came as Santa Claus. The teacher, in a room full of students, said, "Hey, don't you know Santa Claus is white? Why are you wearing that?" And the student rightfully complained, and the teacher was put on leave while the incident was being investigated. This had the conservative commentators and some liberal ones all in an uproar about this huge overreaction by the school, how this was stupid to do to the teacher for making an innocent remark. Look, if you're among friends and giving each other a hard time, fine, you can say something like that. But in a room full of students, no way. You can't even say that to a student if it's just you and him. And even more so if they're a teenager. These kids are already under enough societal pressure, and you say something like that that singles one of them out. 99.9% of teenagers that age want to blend in with their peers, not be singled out. And here this teacher does this boneheaded move. Personally, if the teacher is this clueless, I don't think I want him teaching my child. What would he have to offer? He obviously isn't that smart, or we'd never made that remark at all, let alone in a classroom full of teenagers. This is just indicative of how the level of professionalism has dropped among government school teachers across the country. If they aren't trying to have sex with the students or sending them explicit photos, then they're outright insulting them. But getting back to the original story, that was a big controversy over whether Santa's white or black. We actually had people arguing and getting offended over an imaginary character. You might as well have been arguing over a unicorn's race. It's just as real as Santa is. Did you find yourself wondering why this got so much publicity? The answer is because people are pushing a political agenda. And why does this happen in our country today? It all boils down to trying to get a leg up on the other political side. And why do that? To get control of the money and power in government. There is so much to be gained in this country by using whatever the new event is, using that to raise money, to get people elected, to control the government so you can ultimately control the people and all the money that's coming up there. This is why our founders warned us about allowing too much power to accumulate in government. This is the problem of government being in every part of everyone's life. When you look at most polls of Americans, they don't want this sort of thing. I've had this theory that I believe a lot of conservatives are really libertarians. They just don't know it. Or they're confusing their personal beliefs with their political beliefs. For instance, if you ask most conservatives, they'll tell you, we need religion back in the schools. We need husband, wife, and 2.4 children families. So you say, okay, that all sounds great. Do we need the government dictating this to us? Do you need the government saying, you will read the Bible at school? Do you need the government specifying marriage as only between a man and a woman? You ask a lot of conservatives that, and they'll answer, no, we don't need the government telling us what to do. Correct. Congratulations. You're a libertarian. Don't confuse your beliefs in what people should morally do with what the government should be doing. Probably 80% of conservatives don't want government meddling, and that's a libertarian theme. Real conservatism, as stated by its leaders, and that's what we have to go by, real conservatism demands that government should be dictating morals in this country. The government should be meddling in civil marriage ceremonies. The government should be treating adults as children. The government should be going around the world killing supposed terrorists without a trial, without a chance to face their accusers, without a jury of their peers. The same things the big government liberals want as well. That's why I say there's not a lick of difference between liberals and conservatives in the big picture. They both want to tell you what to do, when to do it, well, and even how to do it. Overwhelming numbers of personally labeled conservatives would disagree with this type of thing. Now, why is that? Because they believe in the Constitution. They believe in our government being limited by that document. I would even say an overwhelming majority of Americans, no matter their politics, would agree that government is routinely overstepping its boundaries. The reason they continue to give it a pass is for the very reason I've stated on this show many times: political parties. This guy is from my party, so I have to support him. Much, much better to support someone with whom I don't agree than to support someone from that other side, even if I might happen to agree with them on more issues. Doesn't matter. It's not on my team. We're coming. We got a little bit of time for the break here. I want to hit this real quick. People have been asking me this week, are you going to talk about Duck Dynasty and A&E this week? My email has been about 50% that question. So in the interest of entertaining my audience, we'll take part of this segment to address it. Here's what happened. Some guy got fired because his employer didn't agree with what he had to say. End of story. In America, that's what happens sometimes in private business. And that's how it should work. Businesses should be able to fire and hire whomever they please, right? I mean, that's what we're fighting for on this show, correct? Freedom, liberty. Just as you should have the right to negotiate whatever salary you want for whatever work you want to do. businesses should have that same freedom to hire and fire, right? So I've addressed that. We've got that behind us now. We'll give you this before we go out on the break, though. There you go. That is the genuine duck commander call. Did you like that, Jay? Jay's sitting in there. You're just waiting for him to come flocking into the parking lot now. But I wanted to talk about that before I went to break here because it has just been everywhere. And all it is, like I said, it's a blow up in a private business, and that's really all I see to it. It's 15 minutes after, so hey, that means it's time to head to the first commercial break. And unfortunately, we have to pay these bills, so we have to do that. Don't worry, though. When we come back, we'll talk about this court ruling that's affecting the NSA and what you should take away from it when we return in the next segment of the exciting and intriguing Patrick Riggin Show here on the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network.